welcome back to another video from Tig Welding. In today's video I just wanted to get on here and give you some tips for running in an open route and a little bit of shed 20 4-inch pipe. I know a lot of people do this differently, but a few pointers that I wanted to give you. So on your amperage, I would suggest with a 2.5mm gap that you go at around anywhere between 150 to 180. You can put it in hotter if you want, it depends what your landing's like. I have a nice sharp landing on this one, so I went in at about 165 I believe it was, and then I was just making sure to burn into the edges. As you can see, I'm running a little bit quick. I might have actually been a little bit hot. I might have been 170 looking at it again. I didn't really take note, I just set my welder up and away I go. But yeah, when you get to your tacks, when you're welding up like that, you need to sort of slow down a little bit just to put a little bit of heat in the tack. And as the tack's heating up, you can see it start to melt. And then instead of laying your wire there, what you want to do, you want to give it a little push, just so you can push into that tack, especially if you haven't ground the edges of the tack like I haven't done on this one. I don't really do that, so I'm basically just welding class 2 stuff here. It's not class 1, I'm coded up to class 1 with ASME 9. It's always very important to make sure, this goes without saying as well, that you have got a very clean tungsten and all the area of your welding is prepped properly, because these all do add up to a nice route, a nice weld and everything else. If you start off with a nicely clean surface that you're going to be welding, everything else usually falls into place as long as you're within the parameters of what you're welding. And my tungsten, I don't even know what angle I sharpen it to. I don't really have a specific angle. I sharpen it up on a bench grinder, so it comes out to whatever it comes out at. I don't have one of those tungsten sharpening machines. I don't really see the point. The only reason I can see they do well is on site when you haven't really got a bench grinder instead of using a hand grinder. They do come out a lot nicer, and I know that you can change your grind angle on them to whatever you prefer really. And as long as when you're running in your route, as long as you keep everything the same as you're going around, like you're walking the cut motion, well, on your route you're not doing walking the cut, you're actually wiggling it inside the weld prep area, and yeah, away you go. As long as you keep everything the same, you keep a constant arc length, everything the same as you're going around, it all just falls into place with a little bit of practice, you know. Everybody can do it. It's just the people that want to learn will learn. If they don't want to learn it, they won't learn. And a lot of people don't really want to put in the time and effort to learn a new skill, but I've come across a few people and they're really keen, and they're the easiest people to teach. If someone isn't too keen, they're just doing it because we've got nothing else left to do. They're going to be the hardest ones to teach, really, so they probably wouldn't even listen, in all opinions. I've had that before, when you're trying to teach a new apprentice something and they don't really want to be there, they just want to get on, they just want to go on the phone, and it shows because they just don't want to learn it. They're not bothered. They think they can weld, but in reality we all know that they can't. It is always good to grind your tacks. I know I don't do it, but like I said before, I'm not doing class 2, nothing's going to get x-rayed, and as long as it doesn't leak, it is perfectly fine. I do always make sure that my tacks have burnt through by slowing down, keeping the heat on the tack while I push in the wire, like which I said before. But when you come to finish the weld, it's always good to go a little bit further than just the edge of the tack. Just weld onto the tack a little bit, and then you can taper off. And if you're going over a tack that's not the end of a weld and you're going to carry on, I always weld to the edge of that tack, or maybe 3/4 of the way through it, and then stop. And when you weld up again, when you strike up again, you can then burn back into what you've welded before you move too far, and then when you get to the edge of the tack, it's already ready for you to just push that filler wire just a little bit further into the pull, and it'll just burn into the back of the tack really nice. and then you just keep on going, just keep on doing it until you get to the edge of the weld. I'm almost finished this route run, and you might see me when I get to the end of it. I'm going to taper off. I should taper off. I'll just remove the wire, taper off a little bit, and then sometimes I give it a little bit of a dip with my wire just to make sure that I've got it in there right nice. It's always good practice to clean off a weld when you've done with a wire brush or a wire grinding wheel. You don't need to use a grinding wheel. It's not stick. You've got nothing to clean out of it or anything like that. It's all the same going all the way around, so you haven't got to even it up or anything. And then usually you could leave it 5 or 10 minutes, but I'll just get straight onto it. With the same amps, I don't really turn it up when I'm doing this fill pass or hot pass, whatever you like to call it. So I keep the same amps, and then I sometimes go a little bit slower just on the start, and then you'll find you then, instead of wiggling, you then start to walk the cup in between the weld prep. And what you're trying to do, you're just trying to make sure you burn into each edge of the weld prep, just to make sure that you've got a nice solid weld in there. But at the same time, you need to be making sure that you're penetrating into the root. Like, you don't need to penetrate so far that it's almost falling through, because otherwise you're not going to build up the fill pass either. And you just keep going all the way. And when you get to a place where you're going to stop, where you feel comfortable that you want to stop, and just slowly taper off like that. Keep your filler wire in there, because you'll find when you start up with your filler wire still in the weld, it's easier to start, and it's more, how can I say, it flows into the next part of a weld a lot better without any lumps or anything like that, because everything's just been left and you just picked up where you left off basically. And that's pretty much all I can say. I think I would say just make sure that you keep all your movements the same going around, because that's going to give you the best chance of keeping everything even. Like if you start going a bit quicker in one place or start going a bit slower, it's either going to be too shallow or too high, and when you come to do your cap, you're really going to notice it. I do have another little tip, and that's if you accidentally take out your filler wire from the puddle when you finish welding and you taper off and do all that, when you come back to welding it, either flip the filler wire around and use the clean edge of it, or snip off the grey edge which you've burnt into it from welding. You'll just find that it gives you a better start on your weld without leaving any scale or anything like that in there from where the argon hasn't cooled down onto the filler wire to keep it nice. But as long as you keep the wire in there, then you're not going to get that problem, because when you taper off, you're going to shield it until your pulse flow runs out. My pulse flow, I usually have it on for 5 or 6 seconds depending on what I'm doing. I know some people that have it turned on for like 10-20 seconds, but doing stuff like this, you don't really need it. I almost forgot to say, when you're filling up your hot pass, usually I just use a 3.2 wire. It just fills it up in one go. You can use a 2.4, but if you want to fill it up in one go, you're going to have to push in the wire a little bit more. With 3.2, you can pretty much just give it a slight little push. You haven't got to go too mad with it, and you'll find that it just fills it up all nice. You can just leave a nice little bit of an edge to the weld prep before you go on and do your cap, so it gives you a nice line to follow on either side of the weld. You might be able to see it in this picture if you zoom in a little bit. I'm not sure how good it's going to come out because it's my dodgy camera taking, but there you go, I'm still learning. You might also find if you're using a 2.4 filler wire, that where you're adding more material, it won't come out looking as clean, but it's still going to be fine because you're going to be cleaning it off. It's not going to be contaminated as long as you ain't dipped your tungsten. It's just not going to look like shiny, if that makes sense. If you use a 3.2, it's going to come out a lot cleaner with less time to clean it up if you're using a wire brush or something else. something like that. But if you're using a wire wheel, then it's going to be absolutely fine. It wouldn't really matter too much. And sometimes a lot of people, oh, what did I do here? Oh, I stuck my tungsten. Absolute idiot. But yeah, if you do stick your tungsten, it goes without saying to grind it out. Make sure you've got no contaminants in there. I know this is only class 2, and I didn't really need to do this, but I thought it'd be a good idea just to show you how it's done. Just get yourself a nice little, I'm actually using a cutting wheel here because a normal hard grinding disc won't fit in the gap, so it's quite tight together there, and it'll end up widening my weld prep area, and I don't really want to do that because when it comes to the cap I've got to remember that that's there and then do quite a wider step, and you will see it. This way, if I was using a cutting disc, I know you're not supposed to do it, but there's a lot of stuff all you people who say this do and you still do it. It gives you a very precise grind. As long as you're using your head shield and that, if it comes off, it's not going to hit you in the face. I clean it off with my grinder. With a cutting wheel, it's just easier, it's more precise like I said, and I grind it off wearing my welding mask on grind mode. It's not going to hit my face, it's not going to hit my neck because that's covered by the mask, so I wasn't really too bothered about using it. And as you can see, I'm pretty much almost done with this. I'm messing about there doing something. I probably had to sharpen my tungsten or something. Should have really cut it out, but I'm trying to make a long video here. Don't ask why. Less editing. There you go. I'm snipping that off again. Oh, a little bit hard. Got my wrong pliers. What an absolute idiot. I do have some like mini bolt type cutters, little handheld ones, which work much better than your normal pliers with a cutting face on. Here we go, look. Cuts like butter. There you go. That'll keep it nice and clean, so as I said before, when you take it out, give it a little snip off, and when you start again, it's going to give you the best possible result. Make sure you don't get any fish eyes in there when you're traipsing it all the way up your weld. And then I'll just get back on with it. Just keep going. I stuck my tungsten, I probably swore a little bit, but it happens every now and then. As long as it ain't every single time you're welding, you're alright. Happens every now and then. And I'm pretty much almost done. I'm just about to come up to the top of it now. And when you get to the top, I'll weld onto where I started a little slightly. Then I'll remove my wire while I'm tapering off. And just like that, give it a little wiggle. Boom. And that's the filler run done. So now that's all done, I think I've gone off to find myself my grinder with a wire wheel on it to give it a clean up, like I said before. There it is. It's just a 5-inch grinder. It's a Metabow. They're absolutely brilliant. They come with a nice little quick release ring for your grinding pads, grinding discs. Obviously this don't have it because it's a screw fitting. Just give it all a nice clean. As you can see, I've cleaned past the weld prep, and that's just to make sure when I'm doing my cap there's nothing else left there on the edges which can then drag into my weld. You might not need to do it, but I like to do it. It gives me peace of mind when I'm welding around my pipe, and I give it a nice little once over yet again. Clean it up all in one go. You don't need to go too mad, but I just like to make sure that it's nice and clean every time. That's how I train to weld, and that's how I'll carry on welding for the rest of my career, however long that may be. What filler wire am I using for this? I'm using the ER70S6 filler rod. It's actually from Bowler. They are EMK6s, I believe they're called. I've spoke about these before and they're absolutely brilliant. I don't think you could get much better rod. PZ500 is the only thing that comes close to them. I think PZ500s are probably a little bit better, but they're a little bit more expensive. They're like a triple oxidized filler rod, and they're absolutely brilliant. But these are, there's not much difference between them and PZ500s. The EMK6s from Bowler are absolutely fantastic. They're always clean. There's never really any residue on them. Well, I've not found one with residue on them at all. Safe to say that I walk around with them in my mouth when I'm tacking up and things like that. As you can see, it's not actually the proper cap yet. I left it a little bit shallow, but that's my own fault. I was just trying to speed through this, but there you go. You can, if it's not filled up enough, you can always go ahead and put another run on it. It's not going to matter too much, apart from it takes you a little bit longer. And when you're doing this one, you can move a lot quicker. I've kept the same amps again, about 160, 170, and I'm just going to fill it up so there's no edge there. I'm not going to be able to keep the edge on this one, unfortunately, to follow. So the edge is going to be the toes of this run. Like you can see, everything I'm keeping is exactly the same. Sorry about the little bit of flashing arcs there. I'm using a lens from a old welding helmet, and for some reason it keeps flashing. That's probably why I don't use that helmet anymore, to be honest. But yeah, I'm keeping everything the same. I'm just moving up, same speed, same wrist movement, sort of like a figure eight, as if like you're walking a barrel across a factory floor, if you've ever done that. Nice heavy barrel, and you walk it left to right, left to right, left to right, like that, and you will find where it goes. You could also practice, if you haven't got anywhere like this to do at home, you could just practice with a cup. Practice with a cup on the table. Just roll it backwards and forwards. Just whenever you've got 5 minutes, want to fidget with something, just give it a go. I know I did that when I was bored while I was listening to the tutor at college. I wasn't really good in the classroom. I was more like a hands-on, not really an academic type learner. I always learned from watching and doing. So if I ever had like a bottle or something like that, I'd just walk it on the table. It just kept me a little bit more focused than anything else. I had a little bit of a slip there, but I kept hold of it without pushing in my tungsten, which was lucky, because doing it twice on the same weld, you'd be a bit peed off, wouldn't you, really? But yeah, just keep everything the same, keep on going around the pipe. I've kept the same amps, like I said, Bowler EMK6s, which are ER70 S6 rod, and I'll leave you with a little bit of music just until I finish doing this, because there's not really much else I can really talk about to do this, to be honest. Just a quick thought, there's not really much point putting any music on right this second, because I'm pretty much at the top of my pipe. Obviously a nice little taper off there, keep on the gas flow just to make sure that it's all nice at the end. As you can see, I've just about left it. You can see my cap, what I produce is on the 2 edges here. So for my cap, I let it cool down. I didn't just go all guns blazing. I let it cool down for about 5 or 10 minutes, went off, had a drink, a little bit of a smoke, well, a vape, don't smoke anymore, hoorah, and all that. Probably worse for me than smoking anyway, but who gives a fuck, welding all day. And when I came back, I turned my amps up. I remember actually doing it this time, and I was welding at 180 amps. As you can see here though, I've actually gone past the top of the pipe and carried on welding down just a little bit, probably about, I don't know, an eighth around the pipe, a bit more, but it is what it is. That's why it looks a little bit weird. There you go. Kept it in there nice. I'm going to break it off because I ended up with a little bit of a bulge. So obviously I'm going to trim off that bit of tungsten. I might have clipped it. Tungsten. I meant filler wire. So I'm just going to grind off that little bit of a lump that was left from the dodgy taper off, I'd like to call it. Don't really know. Can't really remember how that happened. It's happened a few times, but just give it a little grind off, and when you come to start again, it's going to be good as new. You won't even realise that it was there. And yeah, I think I'm actually using the wrong grinding disc this time. I should have used a actual grinding disc on this one, and not a cutting disc, but me being lazy, I've not bothered. So I'll turn that down till it's at about 8 8 or 7 o'clock. Start down there. I don't really need to go on the bottom of it because I'm just turning it anyway. You don't really need to, unless you're in position, you're on a site and you can't turn it, then obviously you're going to start at the bottom. But this is a good way just to keep things flowing smoothly, almost keeping everything the same. So 180 amps, 3.2 millimeter EMK6s. For the filler wire, I actually use a 2.4 tungsten with an XL gas lens and a number 8 cup. I don't really have a massive stick out when I'm welding. On 4-inch you end up with too much of an angle and it's quite hard to keep it all the same with a very large stick out with your tungsten. If I went up to like 8-inch it would stick out a lot more than this. I think I might have just told a lie. I've just realised that them two welds on either side aren't even from this bit of work. They look like they're from a little bit of 6-inch. Yeah, I think they're from a bit of 6-inch. I wouldn't have run them at 180 amps. I would have probably been about 190 to do them on either side of this. There will be a picture of the finished weld just after this, but sorry about that, my mistake. I ended up adding something that wasn't part of this, but a nice to look at. So there you go. I'm almost finished, as you can see. As you can see, I'm moving a lot quicker. That's just because I turned up my amps, and if you hang around too much it's just going to get too hot, and then your ceramic is going to keep pushing around and everything like that. And that's pretty much all I can say on this. I will say, if there's any video or anything else you would like me to cover in future videos, then drop a comment in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to make it. I am only on myself and I am limited to a bit of time because I do this in my work hours and I don't really want to take the piss with it. I wouldn't want someone taking the piss doing this too much while working as well. It does take me a little bit longer setting up the camera and things like that to finish the job, but my boss is happy as long as I ain't taking the piss, and I'm happy to try and produce content for everyone to watch and maybe learn a few things. If you enjoyed the video, then please like and subscribe. It would be great for me to actually see that I'm helping a lot of people. I'll see you next time.